And today I want to talk about a more advanced search engine optimization concept and strategy. And this is about updating your existing blog post when it ranks for something. Now, this is actually a surgical process because when it really hits, it hits hard. And what that means is that your post won't rank for just one thing. It'll rank for sometimes hundreds of different things. And so how do you actually update it so that you don't lose all of this traffic for unrelated keywords that it ranks for, and yet you still get the bulk of the traffic that you're missing? You see, sometimes when you target a keyword in the page title, it ranks for something else that gets a lot of traffic. In this case, this post has this keyword here that has 1,200 impressions. And sometimes that keyword isn't even in the page title. It just by circumstance ranks for a synonym or something that's related. So by putting this actual keyword into the title verbatim somewhere, you can potentially prop up the rankings and get more traffic. Well, how do you do that without destroying all the rankings for all these existing keywords that are obviously very different that you're already ranking for? Of course, you can't just put all of these into the page title. And even putting all these into the post itself in the body copy, that's hard to do. The paragraph, the body text, can't really fit all these without it sounding robotic or keyword stuffed. And you want the article to be valuable rather than something that just gets stuffed with keywords, because that will lower your score on Google since the algorithm looks for natural content. So first thing you do is you have to realize you can't possibly get these all in here. You have to trust Google's latent semantic indexing algorithm. But you can do your best job in a surgical manner to prevent loss in rankings if you do choose to update this. So what we can do is we've got to filter out the ones that are getting 1 or 2 or 5 impressions. Those are so minor that they're more of a distraction than anything. So as long as the content more or less stays the same and you're adding content to it rather than deleting content or really updating it, you can always kind of rest assured to a certain degree that you're not going to be losing rankings for any of these. So what I like to do is I like to find a cutoff point. And in this case, I'll say 42 impressions, since this one's 43, and that seems to be like the borderline between the ones getting very few impressions and the ones getting noticeable impressions. So now I've filtered out all the bad ones in here. And by the way, Google Search Console is free, and it'll give you all these numbers for free without you having to pay for it straight from Google. If you just hook it up, just search a tutorial on how to hook it up. It takes like 10 seconds. Okay, 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes to do. Now you've got all the keywords that really matter. Now I also like to filter out anything after position 20, or in this case even 19 is a bit too far down. But these after position 20, it's like they're so far off that you have a much lower chance of ranking rather than the ones that you can just simply prop up. So I like to add another filter that just says smaller than 20. And if sometimes I'll make that even more stringent. I may even do 11 if you just rank for so many keywords and you just have to kind of filter it out because there's just too many options. So then with this remaining list, you can kind of see what really matters. The closer to the top, the more high priority it is. These are things that you could consider adding into your content and page title, depending on how relevant it is. Sometimes they're not relevant enough, like in this case, to really warrant adding in, especially if it's newsworthy and after a certain month, it doesn't matter anymore. You generally want to go for evergreen, timeless content so that it stands the test of time. So in this case, you want to look for keywords that rank, in the top 5, has a lot of impressions. And sometimes you have to choose, well, you want the low impression one that's ranking higher to put in the page title, or the high impression one that has less ranking now. If it has a higher ranking already, then you have an even higher chance of it ranking even higher if you put it in the page title. But generally speaking, for a page title, you only have room to fit one. And in this case, the impressions are just so much higher. So this is one I would go with. But sometimes you can fit 2 in here. So if it's short like this one, which only has 2 words, you maybe will fit this in here and this as well. So you could fit 2 keywords in the page title, reposition the page title to target those, and then these rankings will improve and you'll get more traffic from them. As far as the remaining ones that are not chosen, you can find a place to fit some of these into the article. I suggest adding content rather than just updating or removing content to make room for this. That way you don't really lose what you already have in terms of rankings. So maybe adding a new paragraph to kind of fit these in a valuable way. You don't want to just add fluff either. You want to add content that actually contributes. And sometimes these keywords are like almost the same as each other. So if they're like synonyms or very close, then you don't have to add them all. Like these, there's definitely some of these that are like very similar. So if that's the case, just find one variation that works for you, maybe the one that has the most impressions or ranks the highest, and add it in there and trust in Google's latent semantic indexing algorithm system, which basically pairs synonyms and understands that, okay, these words are similar. That way you don't have to stuff 20 different keywords into there and make it look sloppy and look keyword stuffed. So that's about it. And hopefully it will help you if you ever find a situation where you're ranking for 1,000 different words.